ethical reasoning. So bear with me as I share my screen. So I'm going to start my PowerPoint on ethical reasoning. So ethical reasoning, the introduction is the background is unlike a lot of the other frames and there is no actual author. It's been since the beginning of time, basically, since we started writing down words and having written words. There's no inventor. It's kind of a part of human nature, so to speak, inherent. Um, the meaning of ethics is the ability to think about right and wrong. So, evidence based, the analysis of ethical reasoning. I did a little bit of research review, and this was what I was able to come up with. It's how to do the right thing. Sternberg was talking about making the moral decisions not always easy. It's not always easy to know what the ethical thing is to do. It's hard to determine that. What seems like to be the right thing to some people may not be the right thing for other people. It may not be the right thing in every single situation. It seems like you would think it'd be cut and dry, but there's actually a lot of gray and gray areas. It's not black and white. What benefits one person may not be the best for the whole population. And Pollard talked about Sternberg talked about their steps to decide what to do. Is what we're trying to figure out is the actual ethical dilemma. What are the ethical implications? These are the steps to kind of figure out what we need to do. What kind of ethical significance does it have? Oh, go back. Sorry about that. What kind of ethical significance does this have on what we're going to end up doing? How important is that? What kind of personal responsibility you need to take a personal responsibility for discovering the solution to the ethical problem? And what ethical rules apply and can help solve the problem? So here's a couple scenarios to think about. Your friend tells you that they've cheated on a test. They bought the answers. What would be the best thing to do? Do you tell on your friend? Do you tell the teacher? Do you not say anything? How would you respond to your friend? There's a very multifaceted kind of approach to dealing with ethical scenarios, and not all of them are right. And again, it can depend on the scenario at hand. What type of test did this friend take that they bought the answers for? High school, college? Could this find the answers risk somebody's life since the friend doesn't know exactly how to deal with the situation? So another one, your sister tells you she's suicidal and she's using drugs and maybe even cutting herself, and she begs you not to tell anybody. Don't tell your parents. She doesn't want anybody to know, but she's even considered a plan. This is a really tough one. Is talking to your parents, is that going to freak them out? How are your parents going to respond? How do you talk to your sister and try to get her into counseling? How are you going to be able to approach that so everybody's happy with that scenario? It's not just one answer, it's going to be different for every family, every situation. You can't just pick one answer and say, oh, you totally have to tell the parents, and that's going to work for everybody. It may not. It may make the sister more suicidal. It may cause her to do something. It's not the easiest answer, even though it looks like it might have an easy answer. So you're a vegetarian and your friend's parents only have meat for dinner. Do you tell them, I'm sorry, I don't eat meat and I'm a vegetarian? Or do you Or is that going to offend them? Is it a religious belief? What if they don't have anything else to offer you? And this is all they have, and it's their very meager offerings. And they're not going to understand why you don't want to take their food. Ethical drift. This is the gradual dissolution of our ethical morals. It is when we slowly change our ethics. We may start out very strong and have a very clear idea of what we want to do with our lives or in our workplace, but we slowly kind of change that to fit in with the crowd. Maybe we would never cheat or we would never steal something, but then, oh, it's just one little thing. Or I really need a loaf of bread because otherwise my children aren't going to go hungry. It doesn't even have to be quite that simple to know that whether it's an ethical thing or not. It can be very just say you're very against abortion, and slowly over time you change those ethics. It's very varied, so it can happen very unconsciously. It can be something that it's really significant, and it can change the way an organization or an individual how they operate and how they think. Politicians become corrupt. They don't always start out that way. That happens over time. Maybe at first they weren't taking money from their constituents and looking into all the special interest groups, but now they are. Now it's easier to sway them one way or the other. It can be because environmental resources are scarce. You feel like there's no other way. You have to do it this way, such as the mother who's stealing milk because her children are going to go hungry. You feel like if you do a good deed and you try to stop something bad from going on in the workplace, those good deeds are go unnoticed, or maybe you're going to get punished. And if you're a whistleblower, you're going to get fired. So everybody else is doing it, so it makes it okay. These are the kinds of things that are talked about with ethical drift. So how does this apply to organizations? With organizations using ethical resourcing to make company decisions, it's not always popular. It's not always, but it can be the best choice. But it's not always a popular choice. It's not always the one where it's going to get you done things the quickest and the fastest. But this is going to keep you from cutting corners for personal gain, making decisions for the greater good, and satisfaction with the job well done and integrity. So non-ethical organizations, examples of those is Enron. They hid losses and they claimed false reports to make their business look more successful than what it really was. Wells Fargo, they opened false accounts. They were thinking they would open accounts that the customers never wanted. WorldCom, they were improperly accounting for 3.8 or more losses. They hid them, so it looked like they were also more successful, similar to Enron. Volkswagen, their emission scandal, hiding the emission testings, pushing those through to make it look like their cars were doing a fantastic job when they were not. And also by cooking their books and making it look like they were also more successful than what they were. Some good examples of ethical organizations, for instance, Medtronic. They have a CEO of ethics and compliance. They do mandatory training to make sure everybody has ethical understanding of how to do things. Southwest Airlines, their whole culture is on committees. They have a whole culture of committee just for ethics. They wanted to have an example of love and understanding for all their employees and have a family type of atmosphere. Ben & Jerry's, they say that when you give love, you receive love. They want to have a spiritual aspect to their business. They are very ethical in how they reuse and recycle the planet's resources. They even opened up stock options to their hometown in Vermont and other places in Vermont when they started to expand out. Zapatos, they like to say that part of their core values are fun and weirdness. They want their employees to be creative and open-minded. They feel like if you can't be fun and have family as part of your core ability to be an employee and to be part of a corporation, that you're just not going to be successful. And you have to think about those employees. They're not just there to work. They're there also, they're thinking of them as a whole person. So there's all different types of ways to be ethical in organizations. To the clinical health field. With nursing and as nurse practitioners, we have our code of ethics that I know in Frontier we also had to read them for one of the classes. So the code of ethics guides us as nursing how to best take care of our patients. Patients have rights, so we need to let them choose their treatment and when they're going to get treated, their plan of care, whether they're even going to option to even take medicine, not take medicine. Ethical reasoning is, again, it's hard to make an approach. All different nurses have different ideas, different families have different ideas. Sometimes nurses and different family members and doctors, and nobody sees on the same level. That's where our ethics committee comes in. Nurses and providers also can make ethical decisions many times during the day, and they may not even always realize it. Professionalism. Being professional when the patient is combative, when they're angry, when they're yelling at you, and having to just sit there and listen to them, even though that's not easy and you want to get angry back, or if they hit you and you want to hit them back. But you can't do that. You have to be professional and treat them still as a person, and no matter how you're there treating you. So when to test and treat or not to pursue further. And thinking about this kind of brings to mind maybe an 87, let's just say a very elderly person, and the family wants to do prostate checking. And where, yes, you could check a prostate, but again, as part of the guidelines for the AHSQ, you don't want to say you do a prostate and you find prostate cancer. Are you really going to treat an almost 90-year-old? What type of quality of life is that going to lead for him? Or prostate cancer goes very slowly. But once now that you found it, then you have to address it. Sometimes not testing is better than doing testing if it's not going to benefit them. You have to weigh the benefits versus the risks. So first, do no harm. Give them more than one option. Don't just say this is the only thing that we can do. Letting them know there's other options out there, and not doing anything is always an option as well. Hospice care, end of life care, giving the family the way to die and the respect that they want to die and be treated. So famous examples of ethics, since this goes so far back to, again, the beginning of the written word. Aristotle, he was always looking towards the greater good. He was a Greek philosopher. Hippocrates, he was a Greek physician, best known for the Hippocratic Oath, upholding the ethical standards that physicians and nurses have to stand by when it comes to taking care of patients and others. Rawls, everybody comes to a moral decision. He was also a philosopher, and so was Kant, who was known for not letting others think for you, but thinking for yourself. And Mary Breckinridge, she was the founder of the Frontier Nursing Service to help those who were underserved, and not just the families, the mothers who were having babies, even though she's known best for being in midwifery service, but also for the whole entire family. And taking care of those who needed it and trying to get them access to care in places where other people forgot about them and didn't care, and they didn't have that access to care. They didn't live in an area with good running water or the sewer system, and helping them to get better care. So very much a frontier, a innovator in nursing. These are all my references, and thank you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.